It's always these first few minutes that are the fun part. I always feel like I'm kind of goofing around, or I don't know. I mean, every class you start out trying to get things smoothed out a little bit. Doesn't always work, but you do what you can. All right. All right. I think for the moment we got everybody we're going to get. So let's get things started. Okay. So this is class 3 of the COVID-19 series, I guess you could say. Today, well, pretty much we're still going to keep these going on for as long as the pandemic and the lockdown starts, or keeps on going. Apparently I can't speak today. But then once everything kind of settles and people start going back to work, then we'll probably move this to an evening class just so people can kind of log in after work, because we still want the interaction. So we'll get that going once everything kind of settles down and things get back to quote unquote normal, as it were. But today we're basically going to be focusing on what we talked about. What we talked about yesterday as we were wrapping up. We're going to be kind of covering things about faster EFT tapping, thoughts, big, small, medium, and kind of going into what those actually mean. But for right now, let's kind of go back and do a little review. Now, our question yesterday was that the person always felt pressure to accomplish something with all this free time. We said, look, this is an unusual time. It's okay to give yourself permission to settle back and take some time to breathe. If you want to get something accomplished, fantastic. If you don't worry about it. Let it relax, or let yourself relax. We started in with a 5-minute exercise, a little bit of description on that. If you didn't get to see that, go back to part 2, and there's a whole description there. As these videos post up on YouTube, you can go back and do reviews, catch up. I highly encourage it because some of these kind of build on previous classes. So the more you can kind of work through that, the better. Or the more you can go back and I really cannot talk today. The more you can go back through and get the background, the more it'll help with future classes. So the 5-minute exercise, basically just journaling for 5 minutes at a time, getting your thoughts out of your mind, down on paper or typed or whatever, so you can actually see them and start to process them, recognize them, I should say. So you can start to recognize your thought patterns as part of that awareness step. And then we started into a little bit about understanding the mind, how everything is pretty much associations, connections, where every part of your personality that isn't controlled by the nature part of your mind, your own physical neurochemistry, and your own genetic makeup. Every part of your personality that isn't controlled by that is all created by connections and associations that you've built up over the years. So that's pretty much what we covered yesterday. Today is our new question, comes from a 65-year-old maintenance man. He's basically, because the symptoms of COVID can be asymptomatic for up to 14 days, meaning you may have contracted it, you may have it, but you won't actually see symptoms. The incubation time is up to 14 days before you get the cough, you get the slight runny nose, you start seeing those symptoms, the fatigue, the fever. The problem is within that 14 days, you're still building up the virus, and you can reach the point of virus shed inside that 14 days, which means you've built up enough of the virus in your body that your body's starting to expel it and starting to get it out. This is part of why they're saying in a lot of states, please wear a mask. It has very little to do with you taking the has very little to do with their fear of you taking the virus in from somebody else, but more of keeping you from, if you do have it and you're not showing symptoms, it's to keep it in here rather than you spreading it out to other people. And for this man, this is really scary. So it's really keeping him. It's really keeping him inside. It's keeping him isolated more than a lot of people. A lot of us, we're isolating not because we're really super scared of getting it or super scared of passing it on. We're just being safe and cautious. He's in the scary demographic. He's in the elderly, where if he gets this, it's really going to hit, and it's really going to hit and hit hard, so that his life is actually in danger. So he's isolating out of fear. He doesn't know who he can be around. He doesn't know who he has to stay away from, and this is really scaring him. So he's hunkering down, and this is causing a lot of depression for him. It's causing him to get into this really bad negative mental loop of fear and anxiety. And the thing is, what the problem with this is, these fears of being sick, these fear of who it's safe to be around, these cause a lot of fears of what ifs. What if I do get it? What if I die? What if I pass it along to somebody else without knowing it? And these are scary, obviously. A lot of us deal with the fear of what ifs. The problem is a lot of people start to do the fear of what if bad. What if the bad thing happens? What if the bad thing happens? What if the bad thing happens? And a lot of people tend to forget that what if also goes the other way. What if good things? What if it turns out good? What if I don't get it? Things like in a job loss. What if I'm broke and don't have a job for a long period of time? Well, on the other hand, what if your next job that you get in about a week, what if you do get a job in a week, and what if that job is the one that fulfills you and becomes your quote unquote retirement job? That's huge. So for him, he can focus on the positive what ifs, but he can basically take more precautions when he's going out to lower his level of contamination. He can stay away from more people. He can focus more on wearing a little more PPE, a little more personal protective equipment. Maybe rather than just a mask, he can do mask, goggles. He can do gloves, wash a little bit more, things that'll make him feel a little cleaner, a little safer. He can find other ways to connect. Make more phone calls to people. Really just reach out. FaceTime and Zoom. The older generation's having a little problem with this. I know eventually we're all going to get to the point where the technology we're facing for the technology that younger generations are coming up with, we're going to have a hard time understanding. We're going to have a hard time we're going to have a hard time coping with it and adapting to it. But there are ways to reach out to other people and say, hey, can you help me understand this? There's always YouTube tutorials. Anything you want to know anymore, it's out there on YouTube. But these can help create a way to connect. Recently, a good friend of mine, we did this whole long FaceTime with him and his family. We weren't able to actually reach out and talk. I've been doing that with other friends, other family members. My wife's been doing it with her friends. Just FaceTime, that being able to see their face and their reactions, see their smiles. It really helps. The other thing you can do is visit at a distance. When this first started, I went to go visit with family, and I made sure that I stayed at least the 6 feet. I actually made it about 10 to 12 feet, but this this is kind of a safer way to do things, and it's the way you can still have that kind of connection. The downside is, no, you can't hug people yet. You can't reach out and actually touch them yet. You can't create that connection yet without a lot of personal protective gear for you or for them. But that visiting at a distance can help create that sense of connection. I mean, we basically, when I went to visit family, we stood in the driveway. They stayed inside the garage. I stayed on the driveway. They brought out a chair before I could get there, or before I got there. And when I left, they wiped it all down and brought the chair back inside. We sat. We had about a 2-hour conversation, and we were able to connect that way. So that's something for this poor maintenance guy. That's something he can do. If there's people he wants to connect with, he can do it the FaceTime, phone calls, or the visit at a distance. And if you're in that situation, these are the options you can do. Or if you've got family members that are in the scary demographic, that's things you can do. You can visit at a distance, sit in the driveway, or talk through a door. It's not ideal, but it is ways we can cope. So let's move on to what today's class is about. Today's class is about faster EFT tapping, which is a kind of coping mechanism that you can use to really bring down your anxiety levels, bring down fear levels. If you've got a real problem with mentally, faster EFT tapping is a great way to get through this, and we'll get a little bit more into that. We're also going to get into different types of thoughts. We're going to touch briefly on that. A lot of people think, well, thoughts are thoughts, but they don't realize that you have different kinds of thoughts. You have big thoughts, you have medium thoughts, and you have small thoughts, or what I actually like to call micro thoughts, but big, medium, micro is kind of a jump for a lot of people. So before we get too much further, we're going to go back into if you got your pad and paper handy, we're going to do the 5-minute exercise. And just take that 5 minutes and do your journaling, your free writing. Remember, no self-editing, just whatever pops into your head, start writing it. Just write through. Don't worry about judging yourself for what you're thinking. Don't worry about editing. Oh, this sounds bad, this sounds good. You're not going to recognize, or you're not going to become aware of your thought patterns totally if you start doing that. So just whatever pops into your head, write it out, type it out, record it out, and we'll do that for 5 minutes. Oops. Oh, looks like my timer disappeared. So tell you what, I'm bear with me just a moment. I don't know where my timer went to, but I'm gonna just do some music and do 5 minutes and let you just keep on writing to the music, and we'll find our timer and see where it, and go back to it for next class. So bear with me just a moment. This is mildly well, I won't say mildly embarrassing, but, you know. Okay. We'll start this playing. I don't know how well that is or isn't coming through. Can somebody hop on chat and let me know how that music's going before we really start timer? Or how well you can hear that. Okay, good. Thank you, Jennifer. All right, so we'll start our 5 minutes now. All right, class, pencils down. All right. So since this is pretty much day 2 of the writing, right now, again, you're still just writing. Don't worry about looking for patterns or emotions or thoughts or anything. Right now, you're just getting into the habit of writing. You're getting used to it, free writing, because we all really have a need to censor ourselves, to edit ourselves, because we don't like seeing ourselves having bad thoughts or negative thoughts or what could be controversial thoughts. But it happens. We're human, and that's part of what we're going to get into. Good morning, Logan. Part of what we're going to get into in the thoughts we're going to come up on, or the thoughts, big, medium, and small section we're going to come up on. But for right now, kind of just go back through, glance at it, see, just become a little more aware of what you wrote, and but once you've kind of glanced back through it, close it up, and we'll move on. All right. So let's get on to what's actually going on today. So today we're talking about faster EFT tapping. Now, what faster EFT tapping is, oops, I forgot to move my, it's a little hard to see the video, or see the, I meant to move that down. There we go. Actually, you know what? We'll just block that out completely. Move it back up to where it was, and boom. Because I'd much rather you watch this than me. All right. So faster EFT tapping. EFT tapping is basically a combination of tapping acupuncture points and kind of breaking connections and recreating connections in your mind, just like we were talking about yesterday. This is just a nice method for it. Now, originally, EFT tapping took a while. There were points all over the body you were tapping. There were, from your feet all the way to your head, back down again. A tapping protocol might take up to 2 to 5 minutes. And Robert G. Smith took that and he started practicing it and playing with it, and created a faster way to do it. He found the points that really that worked super well, and just distilled the protocol, distilled the method down to this. And he found it actually worked a lot more effective by just doing these points rather than the whole full body tapping. And here in just a moment, I'm going to have put up a video, and hope like hell YouTube doesn't see it as a copyright thing and stop the whole stream. If it does, we'll just start again and get everything bumped back, or get everything restarted. But the thing is a lot of people think, no, this is garbage. It's just random points. It's just, he just picked some points and thought, yeah, these will work, and touted these. Well, in a podcast of Mike Mandel, who's a hypnotist up in Montreal, I believe, he said he was practicing with this, and when he first started trying it, and he would have other people do different points rather than the ones you can see up on your screen here. And the points wouldn't, or the method wasn't effective. But when he showed people these points, without letting them know they were the wrong points, he just said, okay, here's the place to tap. And he made the points just arbitrarily. When the people would do the wrong points, or tap on the wrong points, it wouldn't work. However, when he brought them back to these points, again, not telling them they were the right or wrong points, he'd bring them back to these points, and it would automatically start to work. So these acupuncture points with the tapping and the I don't want to say chant, I don't want to say mantra, but there's the affirmation, I guess you could say, that goes along with it. Really, that's what really makes this effective. So let's see if we can pull this off. if, like I said, this is another YouTube video you can find. You can actually find this on, you can find this video on YouTube. You can, there's a link in the description below. You can go to, fastereft.com. Again, that link is also in the description below the video. Let's see if we can pull this off. Oops. Where did my mouse pointer go? There it is. I was kind of afraid that might happen. Bear with me just a moment. All right, so we're going to try something else. Let me know if you can hear.
Style. Well, people ask me, well, how do you tap, Robert? How do you do the faster EFT style? Well, the faster EFT style is very simple. What you do is you just notice inside you that something bothers you. I mean, you can feel it. You may have a memory of it. You may have a picture in your mind, or you can remember what happened. And then what you do is you tap. Now, the deal with the tapping is aiming. Now, the tapping is the easiest part. So paying attention to what it is inside you that bothers you. That's the toughest part. Looking at your memories, noticing your body. Now, like if you have a feeling inside your body, like I'm angry and you feel a tightness in your chest or you feel it in your stomach, you just notice it. And then what you do is you tap. Now the tapping points are very, very simple. Between the eyes, beside your eye, under the eye, the collarbone, which is about where your necklace would hang. I usually do it like this, and then grab your wrist. You grab it both sides, and then you take a deep breath. And peace. Now what you can do with this peace is also find a peaceful memory as well. Something that makes you feel good. And then take a deep breath and you close your eyes and you go back there and notice, pretend like you're there, feel the feelings of peace, and then grab your wrist. Peace. That way you're creating an emotional association to it. Now you can use any other word. Now I usually use peace because it creates peace, but you can use any word. I mean, if you have a memory that has harmony or it may have showtime or anything that makes you feel good. Now you could use that one as well. And so what you do is you aim at what bothers you. A feeling in your body again, a memory of what happened. You think about the person. You may look at what they did. You may notice how you respond to it. You may hear what they said and just aim at that. So noticing it. Notice what it is. And then all you do is tap. And what you do when you're tapping is say, I release and let it go. 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 It's safe to let it go. Take a deep breath. Blow it out. And peace. And then you go back and you check and make sure it's gone. If it isn't gone, then you do it again. So you notice what's left, If you notice anything left, oftentimes it'll start shifting and changing. Just keep tapping until the sensation has completely changed or dissolved down to nothing. And oftentimes you do it enough, it's going to change to a positive. Now, if it isn't positive, you keep tapping on it until you make it positive. A good example would be like, for example, your boss said something that hurt your feelings, or your mother said something. And so you keep tapping what she said, the words and the feelings and the emotions, and then you get to the point where you can't hear her say, you don't feel the same, and then you can change the memory. Change it to where she said something positive. That way you feel good about it. You may send her love and peace and make her feel better about it. So first of all, you feel it, you tap it until it's gone. And then you double check, make sure it's all gone. So then you keep tapping. Now for some people, what's going to happen is you're going to have to stay on this memory or this experience over and over again until it's gone. It may take you 10 minutes, it may take you 15 minutes, it may take you an hour, or it may take you 2 weeks. The deal is, look at what it is that bothers you. Look at the person, notice the memory, notice the experience, and keep tapping. Now for some people, you'll have a flood of memories coming in. Well, when you have a flood of memories coming in, just keep tapping. You can close your eyes and keep tapping till it's gone. Take a deep breath, blow it out and say peace, and then go back to the peaceful feeling. Now, while you're tapping, what I want you to notice is when you're tapping, I want you to notice your fingertips touching your face. Feel your fingertips, let it go, let it go. Feel your fingertips, let it go, let it go. Just feel your fingertips, that's right. And grab your wrist, blow it out. Peace, go to your peaceful memory, feel good. Then what you can do is, as you practice this, then you can practice it and to practice and tap in other ways. So then what you do is you think about something that bothers you, you notice that it bothers you, and I always say close your eyes and just notice it, and then feel your fingers tapping between your eyes, feel the fingers. Now memorize what this feels like. And then in your mind, stop tapping, but pretend like you're still tapping and feel your fingers, let it go. Then you do the same here. Feel your fingers, stop tapping, feel your fingers tapping as if it were. You can tap again, and that means you're memorizing the feeling of tapping. Let it go all the way and just continue tapping, deep breath, blow it out, and peace. And then what you can do is you go back and you notice what's left, notice any emotions and feelings, and then you mentally tap. So in your mind, pretend like you feel your fingers tapping. That's right. Let it go, let it go. Keep tapping, let it go, let it go. Grab your wrist in your mind. And peace. Then you could do it with your eyes open in your mind. Let it go, let it go, let it go. Peace. Now it's really nice that you could do this mentally because you could be in a meeting. And here it is, this person could be irritating you or triggering you. And so you could be just smiling and looking at them. Peace. And they just think you're listening, but actually you're healing yourself. So mentally tap, physically tap. And if you don't like it to do either one, you can covertly tap. Now I created this tapping technique after a friend of mine. His name was Tom Tar. Now who is Tom Tar? Well, Tom is a friend of mine. He's married to Sue Tar. So what he would do is he'd do something like this. Grabbing the wrist, covertly. It's called the slide Tom Tar technique. So you just kind of like this, something as simple as this. Peace. So again, you can tap many ways, and the most important part about the tapping is not the tapping. It's aiming at inside you, noticing what it is inside you that bothers you. And the most powerful part about your healing is your ability to be persistent. So I always say, tap until it's gone, or until you pass out, whichever comes first. And make sure you don't pass out while you're driving. Tap and be smart with your tapping, because The most important thing about you is learning to like you and be nice to you. Often the favorite places to tap, usually my favorite place is while I drive, because you can drive and tap. People drink their coffee and tap. They do a lot of things in tap. If you're in a business meeting or someone's irritating you, you can mentally tap. You can covertly tap. You could say, "Oh, 1 second, I gotta go to the loo. I gotta go to the bog. I gotta go to the dunny. I gotta go to the water closet. I gotta go to the toilet. I'll be right back." And while you're in there, let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. And you keep tapping until you get full emotional control. So tap until it's gone or until you pass out. And I guarantee you, either way, you'll come out a winner. You'll come out on top. So how do you tap? It's very simple. Aiming is the most important part. Tapping is the deal. It's just be persistent, keep working on it, keep tapping on until it's gone. And when you do this, everything will be better. This is Robert Smith. I hope this makes it easy for you, because the easier it is, the more likely you'll use it. And I guarantee you it works. These points that I use, I've been using for 8 or 10 years. It's one of the fastest and easiest and the cleanest and the less craziest looking way. So keep tapping on yourself, take complete ownership, love yourself by being nice to yourself, clean up everything inside, tap in the heat of the moment, and your whole life will begin to change. And we'll talk to you later. This is Robert here in Dover. And behind me, the English Channel, and I'm sitting under a nice, beautiful tree on the bridge, talking to you. Talk to you later. Bye.
Oops. All right. So like he said, the most important part of this, is repetition. Do it as many times as you need to until you can feel it work. And I've used this with a lot of my hypnotherapy clients who've come in not for a flat out phobia, but for things that they are anxious about. They have a little bit of anxiety about. And what you can do with this is, like you said, you can do it covertly. You can do it kind of just not even while you're talking to somebody, just imagine it. But here's the thing. First few times you do it, actually quite a bit for while you're first doing this, it is really good to actually do the tapping, because it gets it in your mind and gets you practice at it. And the more often you do this, the more effective it is, the better you become at it, and the quicker it works. If I've got something going on and I do this, because I've been doing this for a few years now, it's almost as soon as I start thinking about the tapping, I can feel it kind of start to go down, and relax. Do it often, do it when you need to, believe in it, and it really does work. It works fantastically. All right. So with that said, let's move on to thoughts, big, medium, and small. Now, most people, like I said earlier, most people think thoughts are thoughts are thoughts. I have them, I don't. They're just how my brain works. Well, there's actually a difference between them. Big thoughts, these are the ones where you are very conscious of having them. It's almost like you're having a conversation with yourself. Should I go to the store and get this? Should I, I wonder if blah, 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 blah. I remember when blah, 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 blah. You're having a conversation with yourself inside your own mind, and this can last anywhere from 10 to sometimes about 45 seconds, 2 or 3 minutes. I mean, if you sit there and you're consciously working on one car in your train of thought for quite a while, that's a big thought. They're the ones we're most aware of. Medium thoughts, these are sometimes conscious, sometimes not. They're more along the lines of conscious decisions, or they're stuff that goes by really quick. Things like, I remember when, or I won, or oh, I remembered I need to turn the stove off. I think I will go to the store today. I think I will do this. And it's it's these fast decisions that we're still conscious of. Sometimes we are, sometimes we aren't, but they're floating along just about here in our awareness, where the big thoughts are taking a lot of our conscious energy. Medium thoughts are just kind of mid-range. They're here, they're gone again, and then we forget about them. The difference between those and micro thoughts or small thoughts, micro thoughts we're not even aware of. They just blow by in a second. There's the split second decisions where you walk into a room and decide, okay, rather than doing this, I'm going to do that. Rather than going this way, I'm going to go that way. They blow past our consciousness so fast, it's almost like a subliminal message, and actually quite a few of them can be. There also are triggers. When something happens or somebody says something that instantly creates an emotion in us or a reaction in us, that's a trigger, and that's what micro thoughts can be. The coming back to the subliminal part of it, I'm going to go back to a story about one guy I was working with a long time ago. He was starting to learn this method, and he came to me one day. He said, I really got to stop. I found out I'm a terrible person. And I asked him, okay, what makes you think you're a terrible person? And he says, well, I was kind of tracking, because he'd been doing this for a couple of months. He'd been doing the 5-minute exercise for several months. He'd started to become more aware of his thought processes as they happen just on the inside. He was watching the train of thought go by rather than being on it. And he said, well, I was watching a movie the other day and it popped up I don't really want to get into a lot of this because it's going to start triggering YouTube, and I really don't want to do that. He said a person of a certain ethnicity popped up, and I caught a micro thought of, what is that blank think he's doing? And he goes, oh my God, I think I'm actually a racist. And I said, okay, are you really or are you not? Do you have these medium thoughts and long thoughts? He says, no, I've never registered any of these thoughts beforehand. I don't know why I had that micro thought. I don't know where it came from. This is not me. And what I told him was, go back, remember it, and whose voice was it in? He said, what do you mean? I said, well, did it feel like your voice, or did it feel like someone else's voice, or did it sound in your mind, did it sound like someone else's voice? And he started to go back and think about it, and he realized, oh my God, that was my grandfather's voice. It wasn't my voice, it was my grandfather's voice. I said, okay, so was your grandfather rather racist? He said, oh God, he was really bad. We separated away when I was 10. We separated away from him and never really had much contact with him ever again. I said, but you were around him long enough to kind of create that association, that micro association. He goes, oh God, yeah. And he realized, okay, so micro thoughts aren't a lot of our thoughts. They're all the associations. Okay, that micro thought for him, if he hadn't become aware of it, could have started, if he'd had it often enough that it started a mental trend, might have actually led him down kind of that path. More than likely not, because he had enough of medium thoughts and other thoughts and big thoughts that would have negated it. But these micro thoughts, if we have them, and these triggers, if we have them often enough, can create new emotional trends. If you've got, say you've got a song you like, okay, and in the middle of it, say you love listening to this song as you're driving to work or as you're getting ready in the morning, and as you're listening to this song, maybe somebody cuts you off in traffic, just cuts you off. You're pissed as hell, or maybe even you're listening to the song on the radio. DJ cuts in. All of a sudden, you've got a negative association with that song. You don't realize it, but that association has become a micro thought. It's become a micro association, so that the next time you listen to that song, that little thought is there. And if you're not aware of it, it can happen over and over and over. If there's enough repetition, it'll happen enough that you'll start to actually not like that song, not like that movie. If say you've got a TV show you really like watching, and in one episode something happens that you don't like, the character says something, or another character pops in, or a plot thing happens, and you just have that instant little dislike, and you keep watching the show, and that character keeps popping up, or you create that little negative association. All of a sudden you really don't like the show. The more you become aware of these micro thoughts, medium thoughts, and large thoughts, and how they affect you, the more you can start, or you can become greater in your awareness of your thought patterns, and you can start to make the changes. So that's pretty much what we're going to cover on that. And at that point, at this point, I'm going to ask, does anybody have any questions about the exercise, about what we've covered, about yesterday's question? If you've got anything you want to pop up, throw it up on the chat, and I'll try to do my best to answer it. Now, there's a better lag, so bear with me. I'll just keep an eye on the chat for a few seconds, and if nobody pops anything up in the next minute, then we'll just move on. So if you've got a question about anything, or if you want clarification about the exercise, if I know this is only the second day we're doing it, but if there's something you want clarified about it, or if a question you have about it, throw it up there on the chat so we can address it, because I want you guys to feel comfortable about this. All right. Well then, at that point, or this point then, this is a good time to wrap things up. I want to let you know, for class 4, we're not going to be up on Monday. We've got a little family thing, nothing too major. I'm not going to be able to do the class on Monday at our regular time. By the time I get back and get things situated, it's going to be later on in the day, so it's just better to kind of put things off until Tuesday. Tuesday we'll be doing we'll actually be doing the fear special, and we're going to be going back over EFT tapping again. We're going to be doing a couple of other things, the phobia cure. It's a great NLP hypnotherapy thing that I've used with a lot of clients over and over. It's fantastic. We're going to be going over that. This is actually going to be something that I've taught to sales professionals, insurance agents that are afraid of prospecting. That's one of the biggest killers of a lot of sales professionals, of that fear of reaching out to people, the fear of prospecting. It turns them into statistics really quick. And so that's actually what we're going to cover on Tuesday. So with that, guys, I want to say thank you again for attending. Thank you for spreading this out. If you really did like it, hit that like button down below, hit subscribe, hit the little notification bell so you get reminders whenever the next live video pops up, and whenever